Podcasting Network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Rod, and Chris. And Chris, buddy, welcome to the show, man. I'm surprised you were up for the show tonight.
I mean, I don't know why you guys are giving me such a hard time. You know I'm an old man.
Yeah, Rod, it was funny. We were talking. Chris had gone silent, radio silent for a while on Saturday, and you're like, he's not coming on. There's no way he's asleep. And then you said, hey, it'd be funny if on Sunday he would not come on. And Chris texted us. Chris did text us, hey, I'm main event was great. I can't wait to be on. And then he didn't show up. Chris does not remember he texted us. Is that correct, Rod?
Yeah, he's just living the gimmick, and you know how wrestlers sometimes the line gets blurred between kayfabe and the real person. Chris is just blurring the lines right now. He doesn't know if he's supposed to be sleeping, if he really is sleeping, if he's dreaming. He doesn't know anymore.
Speaking of real people, Rod, we're usually the three, we go for the trios belts here, right? But now, bam, 4 horsemen coming in. Who we got?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome coming to the ring today's special guest commentator. He is the program director for Classic Rock 97.7 ZOW. You can hear him every day on the air, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And he is Rod's boss, so you gentlemen don't embarrass me. His name is Brad King. Brad, hello.
Well, that was quite an intro. Thank you.
Brad, welcome for sure. I always like to get some other input here on the Yeah We Know podcast. For those of you watching live on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or wherever else may be pirating our show, because let's be honest, we are pretty popular. Throw something in the chat if you have any questions or comments. But I've got to go to Chris King first because we don't know anything because, again, he wasn't here. Chris, what was your number one takeaway from WrestleMania?
Sunday was the best day, let's be honest. Sorry about the phone. But yeah, no, you start Sunday off with a banger of a match and then another banger of a match. And I don't care what anybody says about the ending of the main event on Sunday, but like that was still a shift-changing moment for WWE in this era, at least this year.
Of course, Chris talking about John Cena continuing to be heel and Cody Rhodes, who last month killed Kevin Owens multiple times with multiple things, would not stoop to hitting John Cena with the belt. Brad, I think you have a different opinion than Chris does on that ending.
Yeah, that was it was disappointing. Not that it mattered to me if Cody or Cena won. But the way they went about it, I thought was very lame. The whole Cody, should I? I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like you said in the Royal Rumble, I mean, I was there. I know Rod was there as well, in Indy. And yeah, Cody damn near killed Kevin Owens. And all of a sudden, he's got this crisis of conscience against the guy that beat the hell out of him a month ago. So I thought that was lame. Obviously, The Rock not being involved after playing such a pivotal role in Cena's heel turn, and then he's basically never mentioned again for the entire run. I thought that was kind of lame too. For me, the highlight of night 2 was easily the opening match. That the women's triple threat match was fantastic, and that was the highlight of night 2.
So you went a couple different ways there, Brad, and you're giving us some fodder here, which is good. Rod, were you able to hear any of The Rock's interview with Pat McAfee?
No, and I don't think you're surprised by that vis-a-vis
No.
my thoughts on Mr. McAfee recently, but because he is omnipresent on Twitter, I certainly saw a few of the things, and because I follow all of the aggregation wrestling sites, I believe I saw the most important quotes. But which one in particular were you wondering if I saw?
I just want to. There was no plan for him ever to be at WrestleMania. The John Cena heel turn was not 20 steps ahead. It was, hey, Cody, you're going to turn heel. No, I'm not. Okay, how about John? Okay, we're going to do that tonight. Your thoughts on just
Toronto sales? Had to goose those Toronto house sales,
which they didn't have to, by the way. Which, Rod, listen. Chris is conspiracy theory guy here, right? I know that, but I'm just going to ask you a question. it is all not kosher in the Triple H Rock relationship, maybe.
Well, listen, I've always said that if Toronto doesn't sell out, then that is the bellwether for all wrestling. So I'm very, very excited that The Rock decided to come from his sainted perch out there in Hollywood and bless us at Elimination Chamber in Toronto. But he had no plans at showing up for 2-day WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas when he's on the board. He literally can stand to make money off of the more money WWE cashes for the TKO Corporation. And Rock's like, yeah, you know what? WrestleMania 41, I don't think so, guys. And no, Jimmy, I think there's probably egos that bat up against one another. But for me to believe that they literally were like, Cody, you be heel. No. John, you be heel. Come on. No, I don't believe that for a second.
Oh, I think that's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. They wanted Cody to turn. Cody did not want to turn. This was reported months and months ago, and everything that was reported by my boy, Dave Meltzer, was right, that he was never scheduled to be there. Chris, question for you. Rock said, that you should have never expected him there or anything like that. He didn't know Travis Scott was going to be there until his music hit. They literally were selling
that. Sorry to interrupt, but yes, that was the other part that was very lame in the main event. What was Travis Scott doing there?
Well, exactly. Chris, they literally have a shirt that says, finally, The Rock has come back to Vegas, selling in the Superstore. But no, we as fans, we were just reading into stuff, right?
I'm going to answer your question with a question. I know you hate this, Jim. How come when somebody like a Paul Heyman goes on a podcast and stays in his Paul Heyman role, his Paul Heyman character, we think it's excellent. We think he's staying true to form. Why do we not expect that from The Rock when he's on Pat McAfee? Of course, he's going to do things like throw shade at Triple H, right? There's got to be some big wig back and forth if they're going to make this long-term corporate side versus non-corporate side thing happen. I think this is just part of a long-term gimmick.
So, Chris, there was
wait a minute. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. No, Jimmy, we can't just let this go by.
No, I was going to go after him on that. Let me go after him on this one, then I'll let you jump in, then we'll get Brad's thoughts as well. But, Chris, here's the thing. There is no long-term. This is it. Now, in a year, will they come back and try to figure it out and say, no, this was the plan all along? 100%. But there is no plan here. This is it, right, Ron?
You guys have been on this podcast telling me that some of the things that Triple H seems to do better is some of this long-term storytelling. We have instances where this has been the case. Judgment Day, the Bloodline, right? So why is this not the case now?
Why would this not be the case?
Wait a minute, Chris, you got a bunch of bales of straw behind that wall there, dude, because you completely just constructed a straw man there for your argument, because Jimmy basically his ethos the entire time we've done this podcast that there's no such thing as long-term storytelling. And I have taken my fair shots at Paul Levesque numerous times. I always say that he just leans on, let me bring somebody back. Here, look, Rusev is back. Isn't that cool? That means I can tell story. No, it doesn't, Triple H. It doesn't mean you can tell story. But Chris, what I would say to you is Paul Heyman is cool when he goes on these because he's always Paul Heyman. The final boss character that you're portraying right now, did some of those answers The Rock gave sound like an all-powerful final boss? Because it sure didn't to me. So he wasn't even in kayfabe. He just was giving bad answers.
Yeah, Brad. So I guess, from your perspective, you didn't like the Travis Scott comment at all. Anything else about that interview that just kind of
like we needed to hear Fiend one more time?
Yeah, I like Rod. I didn't see the entire interview. I've seen the quotes. I think the problem is, when you, in comparison to Heyman, like Rod just said, Heyman is always Heyman. Like Heyman doesn't, really veer in and out of character. And the problem with The Rock is he's been in and out of character, and from the first night of Netflix to his next appearance, then he's the final boss. McAfee, he wasn't talking or acting like the final boss. He had his Mrs. Doubtfire glasses on. He's talking, very normal, like just Dwayne Johnson, basically. Mm-hmm. And I know that and I saw his tweet to Bubba Ray
Dave
Dudley.
LaGreca. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, and you say, oh, it's all work. And I believe that to a certain degree. But I think when it comes to The Rock, you know, The Rock kind of, I think there's a big ego there. We've seen it in action outside of wrestling. You know, we've heard about the problems with DC. And by the way, I'm a fan of The Rock, so I don't want this to come across like I'm jumping on him. But, you know, we've heard about all the problems, you know, with the DC universe and all of that stuff when he was Black Adam. And I think, you know, that's kind of what's going on here is The Rock comes in when he feels like it, shakes things up, and then he leaves again. And then and then the rest of the company, Triple H and everybody else has to, you know, kind of put the pieces in place. And, you know, we saw a little bit of that last year with the documentary. You know, the documentary, you know, if you're watching, you know, it was all Rock's idea. You know, Rock had the idea for everything.
Yeah, it took another 2 months for that documentary to come out after they said it was going to come out the next day. So just remember that too.
Right.
Yeah.
What are you trying
Chris,
to say, Jim?
I'm trying to say that Rock and Roman wanted to do it, and they were going to do it, and they were forced not to do it. That's really what was going to happen.
Of course.
Chris, does that make sense, or are we just are you thinking this is 3D chess that Triple H is playing right now?
You have a guy like The Rock who essentially has FU money, right? He doesn't necessarily need more money to live or survive, or his kids live and survive.
Sure.
Why would he not be willing to flex his muscles, put this in, do nothing but piss off you professional wrestling fans and make you mad, get you heated? Perfect heel for WWE fans, right? Is he not playing a perfect heel for wrestling fans? You want to talk about ruin wrestling? For you guys, it would be Cena and The Rock being successful in this.
Wow. Chris, I love you, dude. Chris brings and
hosting
Brad
a wrestling podcast for 3 years, and somehow he paints himself as a rookie and not a wrestling fan every time it suits him. I don't get
every
it.
time.
Why do we let him get away with this?
Well, because he honestly believes that, and that is who they're playing to. And listen, he's not right, but that's okay. That's what he feels, and that's fine. You know, we Chris and I probably don't agree on a lot of things. You know, I like electricity. He doesn't. You know, things like that.
It's if I may,
sure.
It's a big swing just to troll internet fans. I mean, if that's if that's what's going on here, I think that's a really, really big swing just to troll internet fans.
All right. So speaking of interviews, our boy Karrion Kross interview as Killer Kross basically did the pipe bomb segment of I've been here for 20 years. You know, everyone wanted me to go against Orton, which I honestly I didn't see that. But he is getting himself over with the fans. So hopefully, Rod, our guy is going to get what he deserves here and get a nice little push.
If he comes back though with the strap over him, Jimmy, I'm going to be so friggin' angry. We can't go back there. We can't go back. We have to move forward. We have to allow Karrion Kross to do something that people will find cool. And what he is doing right now is like a Svengali pulling the strings, truth teller, right, Chris? That should get your skin all the tingling up there. You talk truth tellers all the time. Karrion Kross is the ultimate truth teller right now.
I would love to see him take the belt off of Jey Uso.
Good Lord.
Okay. Right away. Let's go. All right. Let's just take it off of Uso. Not an Uso fan. Brad, are you a Karrion Kross fan?
Yeah, I'm learning more about him recently. Honestly, my big introduction to him was probably like a lot of more casual fans was the Jesse Ventura impression, video that went viral, him in the gym. A guy I used to work with is actually good friends with him. So I was familiar with the name because this guy they're both from Vegas. So he would occasionally post internet wrestling stuff from like back in the day and would talk about how Karrion is moving up in the ranks and whatnot. But yeah, I'm kind of digging this stuff, but it's interesting to me as I'm an old school fan, and it's more of this like really pulling back the curtain stuff, but it's also obviously there's a lot of winking going on because I'm of the belief that if it's on TV, it's a work. If it's
exactly. Oh yeah. There's no way he would have been fired immediately if he wasn't told to do all that.
Right.
I know you have a lot of beliefs, but Brad, do you believe in Joe Hendry? Because Chris does not, and we're going to talk to him in a minute about that. But do you believe in Joe Hendry, Brad?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not on that bandwagon yet.
All right, muting you now. It's okay. Rod, thoughts? No, okay, go ahead.
But I'm not against. I'm still, kind of waiting to see what the hype is all about.
So the 65,000 people at the Royal Rumble that you attended cheering for him coming in didn't do anything for you. I'm not. I know he hasn't done anything on WWE main roster TV except for losing the Royal Rumble and losing 3 minutes to Randy Orton, a Hall of Famer. Amazing, right? So I get that a little bit. Chris, what did you think about that, Chris?
I didn't like any of it. All right. It was a worthless 3 minutes for the
worthless 3 minutes.
Oh, ow.
What does that do for Joe Henry? What does that do for Randy Orton?
Everything, Chris. There were 63,000 people in that stadium. Do you think Joe Henry's ever wrestled in front of 63,000 people before? Only one time, and that was when there was like 18 other dudes in the ring. All right? You got to understand that from his standpoint. He got to come out on the biggest night of the year. OT shows up every couple of weeks and gets his ass kicked on Monday Night Raw, but did he get a match at WrestleMania? No, he did not. Did my guys Pretty Deadly get a match at WrestleMania? No, they did not. But Joe friggin' Henry did, Chris. And you want to know why he did? Because we all believed. That's why. And Jimmy, if you'd allow me a few more seconds here, I finally landed on something that Chris can put his teeth into here, okay? Chris, I hate white meat baby faces. I can't stand them, right? But Joe Hendry has figured out a way to play white meat babyface while winking at it and making fun of it at the same exact time. And that's amazing to me because nobody's ever been able to do it before. You either have to be making fun of all the tropes that white meat baby faces are, and then you're a heel, and Joe Henry's figured out how to turn it on its head and still be a white meat baby face. I love it.
I will say, and I don't watch TNA, so yeah, that's my knowledge of Joe Hendry is what I've seen online, and then the Rumble and WrestleMania, and that is the most interesting thing about him so far. Is that was my thought watching WrestleMania is, man, this guy comes off as a heel. So that's what intrigues me is what is it about him that he's so over as a face? Because he, to me, is playing a heel with the spin around, the smile, all that stuff. In the old days, that he would have been booed out of the building.
Yeah, I think it's also just the gimmick. When you find that gimmick, and when he was a lawyer for Evolution back in the day on Monday Night Raw. Okay, he played a lawyer on Monday Night Raw. He has been in this for so long. He was not even wrestling on any TNA pay-per-views until a little while ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever it is now. And then he found it. And it's cool. It's just that story of him getting to this point, which was pretty neat. For Joe Hendry, Chris, it's everything to be in front of that, to do what you're supposed to do, to have Triple H, who last time I checked had a lot to do with the booking, say this is not your last WrestleMania. To have CM Punk and John Cena, Bubba Ray Dudley talk to him. That's great. For Randy Orton, it gives him a culmination of months-long blood feud with Kevin Owens that was ripped away from him. It gives him a moment to just have a little bit of fun and sets him up to go now to the big belt, the world champion, whatever the hell it is now, the WWE Undisputed World Heavyweight Championship.
Which was telegraphed the minute they put it in St. Louis. Don't act like it wasn't.
Oh, no question at all. No question at all. Last interview we need to talk about.
Wait.
Go ahead. Yep, go rebuttal. Sorry.
Okay, so So you're saying it's good for this guy because he's been a good soldier and put in his dues to the WWE, and that's why they're giving him something on WrestleMania. Well, then I can
I know where
completely
he's going.
understand
I know where
why
he's going.
Killer Cross is so upset because that's what he was told by Brock Lesnar, and it hasn't gotten him anything.
Because
So
he
maybe
is
Karrion
developing-
Cross needs to be on WrestleMania. Give him a match versus Randy Orton instead of Joe Henry.
He got to
He's
come out during the AJ
developing-
Styles match.
He's developing that character, Chris. If they played Karrion Cross's music, the place would have kind of been like when the Bears got their pick today, and they were like, "Oh, okay, fine." We would have been excited. And in the last interview, Brad, did you see Bailey's interview that just posted in the past couple days?
Again, same as the others have
Sure.
not had a chance to watch the whole thing. I've seen the big clip that's going around, where she says, "Oh, by the time this comes out."
Just wait, because they were talking about a time, Chris and Rod, where Bailey had to kind of go back a little bit, and how frustrating that was. And she's like, "Well, by the time this comes out, just wait." And the interviewer's like, "Wait, what?" And she's like, just wait." And this was before Bailey got hurt and was replaced by Becky again. And Rod and I talked about this, how Bailey was such a great soldier the entire year, and her knee injury. And Rod, we were on this as well, was a lot worse than we thought. And we had those months of Bailey just kind of doing the best she could, but wasn't Bailey. And now that's kind of come to the light where, yeah, it was not good, Rod.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, like those folks that show up and make TV all the time and are putting themselves through this, right? And then we've got other people that have part-time schedules. You know what I mean? It's just like there's so many inequalities and inequities in the game of professional wrestling. So for Chris to try to harp upon anytime one of them comes up just to make his arguments is awful, awful dirty, because there's nothing equal about the business whatsoever.
It isn't. Chris, let's move on here to Monday Night Raw. You are someone who came on this podcast and said Monday Night Raw might have even eclipsed the news of WrestleMania. Obviously, that was a little even hyperbole for you. I understand that. Hyperbole, Chris. Sorry. I don't know what it means either. Sorry. Chris, what was your biggest takeaway from Monday Night Raw? I know there's a lot of them.
I really enjoyed the Gunther work, right?
It was a face turn.
Wow.
Nice. Good call, Brad.
Attacking Cole and choking out McAfee, total face turn.
So, Chris, what did it for you?
Well, I thought I really did think it was great at the time to make it seem off scripted, not mic'd up, really, right? Like not everything.
Didn't say anything. Like it was dead silent except for crowd reaction for like 8 minutes on Netflix.
Yeah.
It was wild.
It was great. It was like I'm watching live TV gone run amok, right? It's like what we look for when we watch Everybody's Live on Wednesdays with John Mulaney. But so like that's what it felt like. It felt that was great. I also thought that was a great way to keep Gunther strong, or should be able to show strength without having to say anything, without having to do a promo, really, without having to face Jey Uso again.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought it was really good. I enjoyed that whole segment.
Brad, do you think what Gunther did on Monday took over for what happened at WrestleMania when he tapped out so quickly?
I don't know, because that was probably the other thing about, if I had to list what I didn't like about WrestleMania, and there was a lot of that I did like, but that was probably the other big thing is I did not like Gunther tapping out to Jey. I figured Jey was going to win. I don't know that attacking announcers immediately puts him back into this untouchable heel level that he was at going into Mania, but it definitely furthers the Gunther as psychopath thing that they seem to be going for, with the attack on Jimmy and bathing in Jimmy's blood and all of that stuff, and now you have him turning McAfee purple. If they continue on this, that'll get him back his heat pretty quick.
Yeah, McAfee did a good job of almost throwing up about 75, 80 times on the way back. They had the good audio for that one, Rod. Rod, we talked a lot about this and how we're going to make Gunther strong again. Do you think it worked?
I love Brad's joke that, I mean, it's a face turn by attacking McAfee, but that's just Brad and I that feel that way. Unfortunately, McAfee is incredibly over. So yeah, man, the way that you make Gunther even more of a white hot heel is you have him attack McAfee and Cole, right? You don't even give him you don't feed somebody else up to the wolves, right? Because of course Gunther's not going to lose again immediately. He's going to start stomping people. So you don't immediately get an Otis or a Tozawa in there that wouldn't matter whatsoever, or one of the guys from LWO who I can't even name, right? You didn't do something like that where they got in there against Gunther. You had him attack McAfee, and McAfee got to get an Emmy reel. I mean, he's got such a huge ego. I'm sure he's going to want to be nominated for an Emmy, and so he got his Emmy reel there, where he had to fake like he was passing out and couldn't talk.
All right, we've taken enough time, Rod. Let's talk about the main event. Let's talk about
what do you think? I got an opinion on that or something?
Rollins and Heyman just laying out CM Punk. The graphics, the end credit graphics come up, and all of us are like, "Oh, okay, I guess it's going to be over." And then, Rod, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Really, really sorry for Phil Rogers. He's just a plucky, things never work out for that guy. People don't chant his name incessantly during the time. Whatever. See, he doesn't even deserve to be Phil Brooks.
He doesn't deserve to have a last name. He doesn't. How dare he?
Not in my eyes. Not in my eyes.
Can I ask real quick, what is the deal with fans that hate CM Punk calling him Phil? Because Rod, you are not the only one. I have friends that are the same way. I have one friend that was a huge CM Punk fan, and then he got pissed when he jumped from AEW, and so now he refers to him as fucking Phil all the time. What is it about? Like, why do you refuse to call him CM Punk?
Because first, the main reason I do it is because Phil just is stupid. It's a dumb name. Nobody should be named Phil. Apologies to any of our listeners who may be named Phil, but it's certainly not a good name for a wrestler. So that's the main reason I call him that.
I think that's hilarious, Brad. Thank you for bringing that up, because it is funny. Because everyone else, I hate Roman, I hate this guy. They're not. I hate Joe.
Right, exactly. I don't know what it is about Punk that.
I think the Braun Breaker aspect of this was just done perfectly, Chris. When you know that Heyman's going to he got punched, so he might as well get speared. Now, I did have a question, Chris. How's Paul Heyman standing up from a Superman punch that quick? I'm just asking questions.
Finishers don't mean anything anymore.
Well, yeah, if you want to be real, that would be it. But, the story dictates that he needed to get up, right? Maybe Roman's just getting a little bit weaker.
Oh, that's your angle. Okay, I like that. So then Braun Breaker comes in, spears, and then we have the holy trio of Breaker, Heyman, and Rollins. Brad, are you wanting to see some more people added to this group?
Yeah, I think they need to. I think, this is the start of a new dangerous alliance. So, yeah, I thought it immediately. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Becky Lynch, turning heel the same night seems like a logical addition. The Breaker thing surprised me because, man, he is over as a face. And, so that definitely surprised me that they had him turn heel. But, yeah, you're going to need to get, if you're putting together a good stable, you got to get a tag team in there. I don't know who that should be, but, yeah, I would like to see a few more guys added, and the new dangerous alliance becomes the new ultra heel stable that's running amok.
Yes.
Rod, are you going to be okay having Seth Rollins be part of the biggest storyline and starting out the new wrestling calendar? Are you going to be okay with that?
I think that he is the man that should be the one that carries it, right? I think that he is dynamite at cutting promos. I think he's dynamite at wrestling matches with guys who aren't that good and helping to bring them along. I think he's willing to get guys over. He lost 3 times in a row to Cody Rhodes, for goodness sakes. He lost to Drew McIntyre. I mean, this guy's willing to go down, right? So now it's his time. And Jimmy, if only somebody on this podcast would have one time mentioned that Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker were getting together back in the locker room area, and that maybe at WrestleMania, Paul Heyman would bring out a new guy, and maybe that guy would be Braun Breaker. If only somebody on this podcast would have said that, Jimmy.
And if only that would have happened like you just said it would have happened. I mean, that would have been fantastic. No, I think that was great. A couple more things from Raw before we head out of here. You had a great women's 3-way matchup to start off WrestleMania, right? And then you had Io Sky and Stephanie Vakir have a terrific match that was just ruined by disqualification at the end for no reason. Chris, I hate that.
Yeah, I will say that match took a little bit of time to gain some steam. It started off pretty iffy, but once they got into the swing of it, I thought they put on a hell of a show. And yeah, I don't know who those people are, right?
I know you don't. I know you've only been a wrestling fan for 4 years. I know.
I only know Io Sky. I don't know these other people from NXT. I don't watch the minors, Jimmy. So I don't know who they are. So it didn't really mean anything to me. I just like, great. Now I don't get to see the end of this match.
Brad, I love the fact that Chris refers to NXT as the minor leagues as a derogatory statement when it's actually the minor leagues of the WWE. It's like, oh, you're in AAA. Well, yeah, I am third baseman. Go Indians, Indianapolis. Okay. Uso, Sami Zayn. When is that going to happen?
Jimmy, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Jimmy, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Are we not going to talk about Rhea Ripley here? Are we not going to talk about how we can't figure out anything to do with Rhea Ripley until they had her getting a stare down with one Julia, who they've not really been able to figure out what to do with her down in NXT. But everybody tells me, oh, if only you would have seen her work in New Japan. She's amazing. So, all right, cool. Show me something against Rhea Ripley then, because I need a Rhea Ripley story where Rhea just absolutely annihilates someone and doesn't come across whiny.
Yeah, you've really gone down on Rhea here recently. And again, Chris, we talked a little bit about the long-term storytelling. We need to get Rhea back to where she was like the number one heat list person.
Yes, and since we brought her up and we're talking about long-term storytelling, and I can't believe we've been at this for over 30 minutes and haven't brought up the genius of the WWE, can we talk about Dominic Mysterio?
I was going to close with that, but sure, go ahead.
I know you hate me. I
want to say question for you. When your talent just decides, hey, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. How do you feel about that? Because I'm telling you how I feel about it.
There's usually a meeting.
Oh, there'll be meetings. Can you imagine us having a meeting before this? That'd be hilarious. All right, Chris, go ahead.
I just want to reiterate that
Dominic
I am
Mysterio.
I was shocked that they essentially made him do a curtain call after winning that 4-way. He had to come back out, get back into the ring. The crowd was ecstatic. This is a heel character that we all hated for 3 to 4 years, and he was still getting booed so loud he couldn't talk on a microphone a month or two ago. It is phenomenal what he's been able to do.
Rod, talk about the WrestleMania crowd with Chris for the 4th time, I believe.
Yeah, the WrestleMania crowd is the best wrestling crowd of the year, Chris. They appreciate people who show up and put in the work. And so, of course, Dom Mysterio is going to get cheered because he did exactly what he was supposed to. Like, your thought that, like, bad guys just have no chance in the WWE. And, oh, isn't it so amazing that somebody likes a bad guy? Ever hear of Stone Cold Steve Austin, dude? That guy was on top of the world for 3.5 years and he was a bad guy. People were supposed to not like him. Like, sometimes people you're not supposed to like, you like. And I also don't think that Dom was required by WWE to do a curtain call. I think he pulled that one off on his own because of the fans. That was them saying it. It wasn't Dom told by Triple H, hey, get back in the ring. I think Dom was like, oh, geez, these people are going crazy. I better get back in the ring.
I didn't think that he got told that. I thought he went back out there for the fans. That's what I wanted.
No, he got told to do that. He got told to do that.
There is a clip going around of the cameraman telling him to go back.
Yeah, and he was. I'm sure. People in the back said to go back there. I do want to talk about Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. Rod, that yeeting lasted for a good 20 minutes.
I wondered if we were just trying to you know what, tonight is the final yeet. I wonder if in unspoken words, that was the final yeet, right? We got Sammy out here. He hasn't been around for the height of yeet, so he got to come out and do his yeet, and he got to cut a great promo as only Sammy can. But my favorite move of all of that was, of course, the move where Jay's up on the ropes, and we all think that Sammy's going to take him down. And Sammy gave the perfect look no. I know I'm going to take him down, but I'm not going to do it right now. It was like the perfect look, like only Sami Zayn could do.
So, Chris, and this is more of a long-term storytelling, I think, honestly, because Jey Uso is the one person that always didn't like Sami Zayn, never trusted Sami Zayn, and finally accepted him, and he's going to be right all along. So I think that's going to have it for you there. So before we leave, hey, by the way, Rusev is back. Very happy for that. I know Rod doesn't really care, but hey, it's always good to see someone back.
Because you don't care. Why didn't you just say that Lana's back? You don't even care that Rusev's back. You're just excited that Lana's back, so you should have just led with that.
I don't know if Lana's back because she is on a Legends contract, so who knows? We'll see. Brad, any Rusev thoughts before we leave?
No.
Thank you. No. Got a future in this business, kid. No, just joking.
No, I know Rusev was big during my lapse, during my lapse time. So, and seeing him come back, because I was seeing all this online. A lot of people were hoping Rusev was going to be Orton's surprise opponent. So I saw him come out, and I was like, oh, okay. So he's just like a big, angry, muscle Russian dude. Okay.
Yes, and he was big because of Lana, his Russian manager. He actually came out on a tank in WrestleMania to face John Cena for the United States Championship, and then, of course, John Cena won. Chris, how was the end of your WrestleMania weekend here? Everything good for you?
Yeah, listen, that was an exciting, action-packed filled 11 hours of wrestling we got this week. Nope, I'm going to say 13 hours because I forgot about SmackDown. So we have to enjoy these weekends when we get them because it was phenomenal.
And AJ Styles also lost, so there we go. Good job.
Jimmy Jam, let me ask you a question. Nobody's been able to ask you a question for this podcast on the way out. When do we next see the champ? Is he going to continue to show up every Raw, every SmackDown until Backlash, or are we just not going to see him till Backlash?
No, he will show up. Well, there's 3 weeks. He'll show up 2 more times before Backlash. I think we'll get that in there. Randy Orton will do a promo on him. He'll probably be there on SmackDown this week, and then next week we won't see him. So we'll see. If you're the champ, you can't be at every show. You can't do it. It's impossible.
Unless your name is Seth Rollins
or Cody Rhodes.
You get to be the top of the card.
And with that, we really want to thank Brad for joining us. Really appreciate you coming on, Brad. Welcome back anytime. Chris, thank you for joining us on your comeback. Really appreciate that as well. We have 2 shows up on all of our podcasts and video channels, our night 1 and night 2 reviews, and stay tuned for the fast break coming up. But you have been listening to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the More You Know's podcasting network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Chris, Brad, and Rod.
Hey, listen, LA Knight, you don't need a belt. You're still incredibly over.
Yeah. Goodbye, Nick. Yeah.
All right, we are still live, but I'm going to do some producing here. Brad, thank you very much for joining us. If you just want to,
Brad, thanks, buddy.
You can actually just exit out, and you should be good to go. Thanks, bud.
All right,
really appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me. It was fun.
See you soon, Brad. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Welcome to the fast break, the fastest 15 minutes in the NBA. Okay, dude, we got WrestleMania weekend. We had the NFL draft. We've got NBA playoff games. There are so much going on. We've got Father Pete Rod is going to join us here in a little while. That's exciting as well to talk some Pistons Knicks.
He is fired up, Jimmy. He is way fired up by the graces of the time machine that is podcast. We have already spoken to Father Pete. And if you are a listener from New York, man, Father Pete has some spice for you.
The Knicks barely hold on, 118-116 in Detroit. I heard you couldn't hear the whistles blowing in Detroit tonight. Knicks are up 2-1, but Chris, if you're a Knicks fan, are you nervous right now?
Yeah. We've already seen the Pistons shut down Cat for a half at a time where he doesn't able to do anything. And sometimes that's the best offensive threat they got. I know you got Brunson, but sometimes it's Cat. And if you can shut that person down for a half, you are in trouble.
You are definitely in trouble there, Rod. They're going to win, right? The Knicks are going to win this series.
I'm not
Oh?
I'm not entirely sure about that, because if you think about it, if we didn't have the tremendous fourth quarter comeback, which was clearly the Pistons like, oh my God, we're in Madison Square Garden, this is the playoffs, the lights are awfully bright here, the Knicks would only be 1-2 now instead of them up 2-1. So I don't know. I think the Pistons are still in this. I think we're going to be 2-2 going back to New York, and the Pistons already showed they could play there. I wouldn't count them out just yet. I think probably, but I wouldn't count the Pistons out just yet.
You wouldn't count the Pistons out just yet. Speaking of out, Jimmy Butler went down hard. Not good for the Warriors if they don't have playoff Jimmy, Rod.
Definitely not. You're going to get entirely too much Quentin Post, and that's not really good for anybody. You're going to get Jonathan Kuminga dusted off, and Steve Kerr has already decided that Kuminga is not somebody that should be playing in these games. You're going to get entirely too much Buddy Hield. That's not really good for anybody. That's why he's been on 5 different teams in the NBA. So the Warriors get awfully, awfully thin if Jimmy Butler's not there. And the other thing about Jimmy is that he has such a high IQ. He plays off of Steph and lightens that load a little bit, right? Steph has to be 45-point Steph. He has to run 6 to 7, 8 more pick and rolls when Jimmy's not around. And that's not going to be sustainable either, because even if they do happen to get by the Rockets, guess who they're going to draw? Somebody from either Minnesota or Los Angeles. And that'll be a rather tough series as well. So I don't like their chances right now.
Chris?
Yeah, they're done if they don't have Jimmy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty tough. A lot of injuries, including Rod. How nervous are you about your boy Jason Tatum? Is he just taken off the first round because Orlando is Orlando? Rod is so excited he muted himself.
Yes, I'm not worried at all about Jason Tatum. He should not play in the first game down in Orlando. He should actually just not play the rest of this series. The Orlando Magic cannot score enough buckets to beat the Celtics. They could play a game of horse. They could play a game of 21. They could play half-court basketball. They could play out at the park. The Orlando Magic do not have enough guys on their team that can put the ball through the hole to beat the Celtics under any circumstances. So Porzingis, he might be bleeding all over himself, but he's still going to get 20 points and double-digit rebounds and be a rim protector. Drew Holiday, who has reanimated himself in the playoffs like he always does. And let's not forget, Jaylen Brown, while might not be my favorite, was Eastern Conference Finals and NBA Finals MVP last year. So he's clearly a playoff performer as well. I'm not worried at all about Tatum right now. Now, if he's still injured for the start of whoever they get in the second round, come back to me. But right now, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I think I agree that it just might as well just hold them out. They can take Orlando out. They're not gonna lose. They do need to sweep them though, because they want to have a nice little breathing room in between this series and the next series. Chris, I know you're chomping at the bit right now. Mine, and our Indiana Pacers are up 2-0 at the Bucks. They're going to sweep them, aren't they?
I still think Milwaukee could probably win one at home. We'll call it, so that would be what, a gentleman's sweep or whatever.
Okay.
But it's been proven that the Bucks can't keep up with them. The Bucks don't have enough firepower. They don't have enough depth on their bench. I don't see them keeping up with the Pacers.
Jimmy, the Pacers aren't just fast. The thing they don't get credit for enough is they play good offense. They figure out the matchups they want to exploit. They move the basketball. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just they run up and down the floor and beat the Bucks. And the Bucks are absolutely terrible. They can't zone. They can't switch. You know what I mean? Brook Lopez playing drop coverage is not helpful to them at all, because Miles Turner can pop out and shoot threes. So, like, the Pacers just have them any way that they want it. And so I'm with you, Jimmy. I think this is going to be a sweep. I think there is going to be sweeping changes in Milwaukee, and I think we're about to have another summer where Giannis is never going to come out and actually say something, but he's not going to stop anybody from doing a whole lot of flirting around and radical speculation. So I think things are not good up in Cream City.
I agree. And then we also have to remember the roster construction the Pacers have is just terrific. They have so many players they can put in and really contribute to the wins. I mean, you have Jarris Walker, who's like their 10th man, 11th man right now. Former first round pick. He's not the greatest ever, but that shows how deep they are, and they can't bring all these people in. So the Pacers are doing very well. I would talk about Oklahoma City and Memphis, but there's no way Memphis could even come close. Oh, Memphis is up by 10. Interesting. Okay. This is going to be a quick one. I think Memphis is going to slide down here and Oklahoma City is going to win there. We don't need to really hit on that very much, but Denver and LA.
Jimmy, I got to say, that's what bumps me out as a Celtics fan, right? I hope my Celtics get to the finals. I'd like to see Oklahoma City have a bit more of a weight on them, and they're going to have about as easy a first round series as possible, it seems.
But the second round series, I believe they do have to play the winner of Denver, LA, right?
Yeah, but see, that even has me worried because Denver LA is going to be a war. Whoever wins that's probably going to have to win it in 6 or 7 games, and they're going to be beat all to hell for doing it.
Yeah, and Chris, do you think that everyone on both sides is going to come out healthy? Because there's a lot of injuries on both those sides.
I don't know. What I will say, because I've tried to watch as much of these games as I can, even though West Coast and I'm old, so it's hard for me to do that. It's amazing, even with Denver's coaching change that they've had, I have still seen both teams get burned, react defensively, make the other team do changes. So, it's really, I see it almost more of a coaching battle in this series right now because you got all the talent in the world with Kawhi on the Clippers and Jokic on the Nuggets, and they're going to do what they do. We saw Jokic go crazy game 1, Leonard game 2, and it's those back and forth and how they defend the other team and make the other team change. That's what's going to decide that. I don't know who to pick right now.
Yeah, I just think LA's got Jokic can only do so much, and I think Kawhi is just on another level right now, Rod.
He's that guy, right? We all basically gave up on him because he hasn't played for so long, and you kind of figure if a guy's that nicked up and injured and father time is undefeated, you know what I mean? You kind of think you're not going to get Kawhi back. And sure, his jump shot might not be as high as it used to, and he's probably not as quick on his first step as he used to be, but he still gets to everywhere he wants to. And he's shooting like 63% from the field. That's insane. The guy missed like 4 shots in game number 2. I mean, he is that guy, right? He's unassuming, so we forget about him, and he sits in street clothes an awful lot, so we assume that he doesn't have it in him. But if maybe he does have that knee together enough to be able to play through this playoffs, remember what he did when he played a full healthy series with the Raptors, Jimmy. They didn't have much of a team around him there, and the Clippers have way better talent than that Raptors team did and a way better coaching staff. Chris, I like what you said about coaching, but I think if that is true, the Clippers are going to come out on top. We're talking about Brian Shaw, Jeff Van Gundy, Ty Lue, all 3 of those guys on the LA Clippers staff. Those 3 pretty good coaches.
Yeah, they are definitely very good coaches here. I'm going to skip over Cleveland, Miami real quick. I thought Miami would put up a little bit more of a fight, but shout out to Evan Mobley, Defensive Player of the Year. Congratulations, Evan Mobley. I'm so intrigued.
Cowboy Derek, just to answer your question, Evan Mobley's defensive metrics are pretty good. He just won Defensive Player of the Year. One of the more random questions asked by Derek one time in our group thread. How good do you guys think Mobley's defensive ratings are? Pretty good, man. He just won Defensive Player of the Year. But let's all be real. Good thing he got this one because I think 4 out of the next 5 out of the next 6 are probably going to a dude down in San Antonio.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox is a really good defensive point guard there. We have finally have the Lakers and the T-Wolves. I know we're just kind of doing round robin here on all these matchups. Next week we'll hit a little bit more because we'll kind of figure out where the series are going. But I'm intrigued to see which Ant Edwards shows up in game 3 because we had a solid performance in game 1, if not unspectacular. Game 2 just really wasn't at all. And the T-Wolves kind of go where Ant Edwards goes. Also, I love the fact that Luka hates Gobert so much and he goes after him all the time, and it's really fun, Rod.
Yeah, it's almost to the Lakers' detriment a little bit, right? Like if I'm the Wolves, I say, okay, fine. You want to keep hunting out Rudy Gobert? You do that, because I think as long as we play a little bit more like we did in game 1 and a little bit less like we did in game 2, which frankly is probably their mean. They were something like 21-4 in their last 25 or something like that. Absolutely insane. They have a top 10 net rating over the season. They were like number 1 or 2 in offense down the stretch. They were number 1 or 2 in defense down the stretch. So if you think about Minnesota as the team that was lackluster at the beginning of the year, you're not giving them justice, because let's not forget that Karl-Anthony Towns trade happened right before the season. So they had new guys come in. They had to figure out how to play on the fly. And by the end of the year, I can't believe I'm doing it, Julius Randle even figured out how to move the ball. So if the Lakers want to keep just picking at Rudy Gobert with Luka doing all heliocentric offense, I don't like their chances.
Chris.
I can't bet against Luka and LeBron. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just can't right now, because we don't know which ant, like Rod said. Are we counting on Julius Randle? You guys say no, so I'm not going to bet against Luka and LeBron. Not in this round.
Probably a good thought there. Hey, Rod, if I told you the Grizzlies were up 54-37 over the Thunder, who would you think has the most points for the Grizzlies?
Sam Huff.
Okay, well, you're right. No, Scottie Pippen Jr., 4 of 4 from 3-point land, 14 points leading the Grizzlies. Up 17 right now over the Thunder. It's going to be interesting to see how that game goes. I can't wait to talk about that next week at the end there.
Of course, he gets 17 now. He couldn't have gotten this 17 when I needed him in the fantasy playoffs. Thanks, Scottie Pippen Jr.
I really want to end it right there, but we may. Chris, anything else to chat about before we head out?
Let's end it.
Rod?
Congratulations to Dax. If we're going to end on fantasy basketball, we should say congratulations to Dax, the man who actually won the league.
Yes, good job. And with that, you've been listening to the NBA Fast Break on the More You Knows Podcasting Network. You are in the arena with Jim, Chris, and Rod.
That's right. Stay tuned for the Pollard Pete interview. I'm telling you, he is on fire. You see why he's a Hall of Famer.
Goodbye, Internet.